Hi, this is now hopefully going to work and stay working. Session 1 of the Motivation Mojo Bootcamp for March 2017. I swear the technology gods are conspiring against me tonight, so I checked it all earlier and it was all working perfectly. Yes, here we are. Anyway, so thank you for joining me in the first Sam James Coaching webinar series. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a while, so thank you for coming on board, even if you're having to watch this sort of later because of all the technical problems. Hopefully this will be the first of many webinar series. So how's it going to work? Well, hopefully next week it will be working on YouTube, but if not, we know that we have plan B, which is here in the Facebook group. So there'll be a live session with me once a week for the next 3 weeks throughout March. Why am I doing it weekly? It's to kind of give you a chance to digest what we talk about, and to be able to action, think about things, mull things over, because even though we all want to get cracking and we all want to get doing stuff, and you may well start sort of taking steps between now and when we complete the programme, which is great, but you know, we're all really busy, we've all got lots going on, and we all have a life. So this is really, I'm sort of breaking it down into bite-sized chunks, so that it's realistic for you, being the busy women that I know that you all are. So that it's not something else that you're then kind of feeling guilty for having not done what you should have done, etc. So I'd love it if you can comment, interact, let me know that you're there. So ask questions. So it's a little bit easier here tonight, because now we're in Facebook Live. You can just write comments, and I'll be able to see them. They'll pop up on the screen, and I will do my best to keep an eye on those and respond to them as we go along. So please sort of shout out at any point, but only share what you're happy to share as well. And then after this, obviously we're doing this live from the Facebook group, so this is going to be a place for you guys to let me know how you're getting on, to maybe kind of share bits once you've completed them after tonight's session, and also just share your progress and share your kind of ups and your downs as well. Okay, so what is it that you're going to get from this webinar series? What is my aim for you guys? Well, hopefully by the end of it, I would love that you will feel like you've got a greater understanding about motivation. So some of the kind of facts and some of the things that are key to understanding your own motivation, so that then you will feel empowered and feel like you have the knowledge to understand sort of what's going on for yourself a little bit more going forward. I want to leave you with a set of kind of tools and strategies that you can use for the rest of your life, really, so that when you're sitting down and you are setting yourself a goal in whatever shape or form that is, you've kind of got a process to go through that you know gets you across the finishing line, whatever that finishing line is. So I also want you to be clear about your goal. So by the end of it, you will be really clear about your goal. You'll be clear about the reasons why you're doing it, what it is that's really driving you, and what's really important about this for you. And feel confident and empowered that you can achieve it, because you'll have a really good plan in place and you'll have thought about lots of things as we go along. So what we're going to do tonight? Well, I'm going to share a little bit about me, so that, because some of you are still getting to know me a little bit, so a little bit about me and why it is that I'm doing this and why you should listen to anything that I have to say. And then share a few of the background bits about motivation that I just mentioned, and then we're going to crack on. Hopefully you'll all have a copy of the workbook. If you haven't, don't panic, because I'll be able to talk you through things tonight. You can make notes as I go along, and then I can sort you out getting the workbook. There was a link to it in the email I sent through yesterday, but if that hasn't come through, just shout and I will send it on again. So yeah, we're going to just sort of get stuck in, find out what your goal is, get really clear on it, and the reasons behind it. That's our plan for tonight. So as I go along, any questions right now? Is that okay for everybody? Just give you a minute. Okay, so some kind of key kind of things around sort of about me, I guess, and why it is that I'm doing this around sort of motivation. Well, it has been about 16, 17 years, I think now, since I sort of started working, supporting people to make changes, and kind of supporting people really from quite a vulnerable place, where so for over 10 years that was in the addictions field. So, you know, I've worked with people when they have been at their real rock bottom, so when they've been homeless, when they've got no family, when they're using a whole concoction of drugs, and are really quite unwell, and feel like they have no options and no choices in front of them. And with the knowledge and experience that I gained throughout the time there, I was able to support people to make those changes. Ultimately, they were the ones that did it. So, you know, kind of one of my key messages throughout this is that you are the key thing that is going to make this change happen. It takes hard work, and it takes perseverance, and it takes coming back time and time again. But that's kind of why I do this, because I think it's really important. I want you guys to feel empowered and to have that knowledge that actually it doesn't always happen the first time. There is so much stuff out there that kind of makes these big grand gestures and makes it sound as if it's really super duper easy, and that if we're not doing it, then why aren't we doing it? But it's because life is hard, and you know, in terms of motivation, there's one of the things that I wanted to share with you tonight is called the cycle of change, and it's this idea that there's stages that we go through in our motivation, and everybody goes through those stages, and we all go through them at different points, and we dip in and we dip out, and that is part of the cycle of change. So we go from a point of thinking that we don't have an issue, and that there's no problem. So if, for example, we talk about smoking, so somebody may well be at a point where they're like, oh, you know, I only smoke a little bit, it's not a problem. My mate, he smokes loads more than I do, so I'm fine, doesn't bother me. So that's kind of a place of pre-contemplation where we're not interested, we're not bothered, and it goes through to the point of us then starting to think maybe there is a problem. And then we need to get to a point of going, okay, yes, I do have an issue and I do want to change something about it. And then we kind of move round to doing something about it and then maintaining it. And it's hard work. And on average, research shows that people go around that 7 times. So you'll dip in and you'll dip out. So any of you that are listening tonight that are working on something you've been trying to work on for a while, you are not alone. And the likelihood is that, you know, kind of like you may well know how many times you've been around that cycle. So don't give up, but have that determination to keep coming back to it. So that's one of my key messages tonight, is don't give up. Hard work and perseverance, you can do it. Change is possible, and you just need to believe in yourself. So that's very much kind of where I'm coming from. You know, I've got a lot of experience around helping people work around that cycle of change and coming back in and kind of working with them at the point where they come back in again, and when they leave again, and then when they come back in again, and getting people across the finishing line as well. So that's where I'm coming from. The motivation stuff has been the sort of rock bed of everything that I've done, along with the life coaching and things like that. So enough about me. Let's get cracking on a few more sort of background things about motivation. So one of the key things is around being motivated for the right reasons. So you need to be motivated for you. This needs to be about you. So whatever you're thinking about, you need to really question, are you doing this because you want to do it, or are you doing it because somebody has told you to do it, that you're being coerced into it? Because that's going to be so much harder. We're going to be starting from a much more difficult place. So, you know, if it's that your doctor told you to do something, or your friends told you they think you should do something, or a boss, you're not starting. We've got to find out what it is, why it's important to you. It needs to be for you, and it needs to have a value for you. It needs to be something that's important to you, and there needs to be a positive consequence. So you need to be doing it because you want a positive outcome, not that you if you're doing it because you want to avoid a negative thing, then that's again kind of going to be quite difficult. But hopefully as we work through this, you'll start to be able to identify those positive things. There also needs to be a bit of a conflict. So I talked about it with the cycle of change. There needs to be a kind of feeling that where you are right now isn't quite right, that maybe you want something different. So it's kind of like a scales. So we need to kind of tip those scales so that it kind of feels like, yes, a change needs to happen. If you don't have that, if everything's hunky-dory and there's nothing that's really driving you to do this, it's going to be much harder to deal with and to kind of find that motivation. So we need to also take into account that we're influenced by lots of other things. So we're influenced by internal stuff, by things that are going on for us. So our moods, our hormones, especially being females, our hormone levels, our energy levels, our confidence, our well-being, all of those things have an impact on our motivation, and we need to take them into account. I'm not saying that that's another excuse for you to use, but I'm saying that it's something you need to think about and you need to be aware of when you're planning your time and when you are kind of reviewing what you're doing. We're also influenced by external things, so by people that, so sort of by our environment, by the people we spend time with, by our work, by everything that's going on. So it's taking those things into account as well. And then there's kind of a key set of ingredients that we need, and it's often something that I go through in sort of, it's one of the checklists that's going on in my head as I'm talking to people in a session, if we're sort of really looking at this. You need to have the knowledge, so you need to be feeling informed and you need to know where you can get that knowledge from if you don't already have it. You need to feel like you've got the skills, and again, it might be that these are some of the steps you need to take along the way, and we'll look at it when we come to planning. So you need to have the skills to carry out whatever it is that you're wanting to work towards. You need to have belief in yourself and your ability to achieve this goal. You need to, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, believe that things are going to be better, that there's going to be a positive outcome if you do this, that life is going to improve, that you're going to be happier, that things are going to be better for you. If you don't think that anything's going to improve, then you're not going to have that kind of tipping balance to kind of motivate you. And you need to actually believe in yourself and believe that you're worth it, so that you know that you can, that it's worth spending this time and making these sacrifices and things as well. So they're some of the key things about motivation, and they're very much the things that this Motivation Mojo workbook goes through to try and start working you through those steps. Has anybody got any questions about that before I move on? I'm conscious I've sort of just dumped a whole load of information on you, so feel free to shout if you need to ask any questions. No? Okay, so let's move on. Let's actually get started in your workbook, your Motivation Mojo workbook. So tonight I am going to talk us through what's your goal. What is it that you are working towards? So let's get really clear, and what I want you to think about is, what is it that you're focusing on right now? What is it? And this needs to be one thing and one thing only. We need to focus on it. So often I see people that are kind of trying to do 2 or 3 or 4 things. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the only thing that you're doing in your life for the next 3 months, but in terms of setting this goal and getting really clear, it needs to be one item. So I'll share a little bit from me around kind of how I used this when I was last year. For those of you that have kind of been aware of me for a little while, you will know that I completed a 50-mile bike ride last June. And that was having gone from sort of January last year, I was only riding 4 miles on my bike. So when I sat down and did the goal, initially I was kind of thinking of 2 things. I was thinking about the fact that I wanted to increase the miles that I was doing on my bike and find a way to embed exercise into my daily routine, and I was also wanting to lose weight. And to start off with, before I actually sat down and really thought about it and took some of my own advice. I was trying to do both, and I wasn't really doing either very well, and I was getting all in a bit of a muddle. So I kind of would do the whole, if I'd not lost any weight that week, I would think that I'd not achieved anything, so I would not I wouldn't acknowledge actually I'd been out on my bike 3 times and I'd increased my miles. So they kind of counterbalanced each other out a little bit, and I was just all a bit muddled in my head. So I sat down and I was like, right, okay, which is it that's taking priority right now? Which is the one that is most important to me right now? And for me, it was the cycling. So if then the weight was a happy coincidence, great. But actually, what I did was I went through this process that I'm going to talk you through now, and it was my cycling. So I sat down and I really made a concrete plan around that. So what is that one focus that you're going to work through on this with? And kind of get that down. Then you need to make sure that it's something that's positive, that you write it in a positive language, and that you focus on it so that it's a positive focus. So not I don't want to be doing this, not I will try to. You need to really write this down. So again, using my cycling example from last year, my goal was I will complete a 50-mile cycle ride for the British Heart Foundation. So it was specific, I knew what it was, and it was positive. There was no I'm going to try to, it was I am going to try to. So make sure that it's positive, because this is the thing. If you think about it in negative terms, if we're thinking about not having something or avoiding something, then you're giving that thing lots of attention. And you are focusing on the negatives. We need to focus on the positives to get more positive stuff coming in. It's also when we're talking to other people about it, we need to be making sure that we're talking about it in a positive way. And our brain, actually, if we talk about it as I am doing this thing, it starts to think that we already are doing it. So it's already then like one step ahead of us. If it senses any little bit of doubt, it's going to jump in on that doubt, and it's going to make it much harder for you. So make sure it's positive. And one of the things I'm going to say now actually is what I'd love you all to do is share your goal in the group, because then I can have a look at it with you and I can help you tweak it, because the negative bits slip in without us even realising it. So once we've worked through this tonight, everyone can share their stuff in the group over the next few days, and we can sort of check each other out, give each other some feedback so that we make sure we get this first step really right. So we've got it focused and specific to one thing. We've got it positive. Let's have a little bit of a reality check, and we'll do more about this next week. But is it achievable for you right now? So have a think about all the stuff that you've got going on in your life. Have you got the time to dedicate to this and to make sacrifices for? Because nothing happens for free. Everything kind of comes at a cost. So actually, is this achievable for you right now with everything that you've got going on, or do you need to scale it back a little bit? So again, for me with my cycling, I first got my new bike 2 years ago now, and at that point my youngest was only 8 months old. I wasn't in a position where I could go off for like hours on end. I didn't have the energy inside me, and I didn't have the kind of the setup really to be able to do it. So at that point my goal was to just go out 3 times a week and to have a bit of me time. It wasn't about how far or how fast or anything like that. Then last year I set myself a goal, and it was about the distance. And this year I'm now contemplating my new goal for this year, which I will share in the group as we go through. I'm kind of trying to decide at the moment exactly what it's going to be. So it's about making sure that it's achievable for you right now. So yeah, kind of don't set yourself up with things that you can't do. So you need to take into account all those other things that's going on in life. So for me, I know that we're about to have a house extension built. My husband's going to be away for chunks of time, and I've got, I'm still getting over having been ill last year. So I don't want to go and put myself into a position where I'm setting myself an unrealistic target. I'd rather set myself a target that's going to be comfortable to achieve, because that's what I need right now. I mean, so often I see people, especially mums, who maybe kind of 6 months after having had a baby are trying to set some kind of big goal, and they can't work out why they can't find that motivation inside them to do it. And it's because actually they've got loads of other stuff going on right now, and they're trying to take too big a step too soon. So yeah, just maybe kind of ask yourself whether it's achievable and whether it just needs scaling down a little bit. So hopefully now you've got a goal, it's focused, it's positive, and it's specific, and it's achievable with everything else that's going on in life for you right now. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to close your eyes, and I want us to kind of really do a bit of imagination here and visualization. I want you to really imagine you are there. So imagine that you are at that point, you have achieved it, you have done it. So really, you know, kind of imagine that we're in a room, and I want you to imagine that you're going to tell me, what is it? How does it feel? So where are you? What are you doing? What are you wearing? Who are you with? What's the weather like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What are you hearing? So really think about all those senses, and I really want you to be there and just take a moment to be there and to experience hopefully some really positive, uplifting kind of feelings. I want you to capture this. I want you to do whatever you need to do to keep this. This is like, I don't know if any of you have watched the new BFG, but imagine it's like one of those dreams floating around, and you've captured it and you've put it in your dream jar and it's buzzing around in there. That's what you need to be focusing on. Is focusing on how good it's going to feel, what that sense of achievement is going to be for you, what's it's going to look like and feel like and be like. And this is the thing that we will come back to. This is kind of like your driving, kind of one of your driving forces. It's the thing that you hang on to, that when it's really tough you kind of come back to. So for me, this really got me through some tough training rides last year, and the thing that you know, I focused on that feeling of crossing the finishing line with my kids and my husband being there, that feeling of me clipping my feet out of the pedals. I was hoping for sunshine, which I got, so the feeling of sun on me, and just that kind of, oh, I've done it. And then the kind of the adrenaline and the buzz, even though I've got like wobbly legs and kind of needed to sort of just chuck my bike to somebody, but I'd done it and I felt proud and I felt brilliant. And that, anticipating that and focusing on that really got me through. So it's thinking about the feeling, what is it? And you can actually do this for each step that we go through. So again, share a little bit from me. I'm getting back on my bike again and I'm doing my turbo trainer. And some days I know that I really like that feeling of having a workout and then the shower or the bath afterwards, and then going to sleep with that really heavy kind of feeling. So even if I'm feeling absolutely drained and knackered, what's got me on that bike has been focusing on the feeling that I'm going to get as a result of having done it. So if you can focus on that feeling, if you can capture that, like those little BFG dream bottles, and kind of focus on that, and that be the reason you get up in the morning or you go and do whatever it is you're doing. So I want you to take the time to fill in this section, the section 2, the how does it make me feel? What does success feel like? What does doing it do for you? Okay, so has anybody got any questions around that one? No? Great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to section 3, which is the real reasons behind your goal. So often we dive straight into thinking, right, I'm going to do this and I need to do it by this time. We don't actually stop and kind of join the dots up. We don't think about why we're doing it. We don't kind of give it, when I was talking about there needs to be there needs to be that discrepancy between where you are now and where you want to be. And we need to really think about that, and we need to tip the scales, and the scales need to be in the favour of change. And if they're not in the favour of change, then we need to do some work to make them in the favour of change. So one of the best ways of starting to try and do this is to think about, okay, imagine you do absolutely nothing for whatever it is that you're thinking about this goal. So if it's a health goal or an exercise goal or a business goal, I want you to think about, if you do zilch, you don't think about it again, you don't come back onto the webinar next week, you don't come into the Facebook group, you do nothing, you kind of erase it from your mind. What's life going to be like for you in 6 months' time? So you do nothing. What's going to be happening for you? How are you going to be feeling? What's going to be happening for you? Is stuff going to be good? Are you going to be feeling kind of like you're on it and that you are feeling really proud of yourself? Are you feeling really successful if you do nothing about this thing? So really think about that. What's going to be happening if you do nothing in 6 months' time? And then think about it, and this is sort of going back to that moment a second ago. So you've done it. So go back to there. What's it going to feel like for you? What are the what's going to have changed for you? What are the things that are going to have shifted? What are those positive outcomes going to be? So back at the beginning, I was talking about the fact that one of the key things is that you need to be doing this thing because you believe that things are going to be better. So how's it going to be better? I want you to be able to tell me, what is it that is going to be good about doing this? Because if there isn't any reason, if nothing's going to improve, if there's going to be no change, then actually, why are you wasting your time listening to me tonight? You must be believing that things are going to be better. For you to have got this far, what is it? What is it that's driving you, that's kind of making you think, yes? And then once you've done that, have a look at the lists. Do they balance out? Is one longer or shorter than the other? If you were to kind of put them, even if there's kind of the same number of items down there, if you were to kind of almost give them a weighting system or coins, which one would be the heaviest list? Which one carries the most weight for you? Is it the do something now? Is it that things would be better if you do something now in 6 months? Or is it that actually nothing, it doesn't really matter, if you do nothing, you're no worse off? So have a think about that. And if the scales are balanced or they're tipped in the favour of doing nothing, what needs to change for you? What needs to happen for you to feel like it is worth changing? And this might be where you need to do some real kind of soul searching. Might also be where you kind of like, it might be kind of a quick session, a one-to-one. We can maybe shift something for you as well. But you need to, the scales need to have been tipped in the favour of that stuff. It's worth doing it because things are going to be better. Okay, so hopefully you've now got a clear goal. You've got your little kind of, oh yes, that's why I'm doing it kind of feeling. You're starting to tap into how life's going to be better once you start this process. Because let's be right, you're going to make sacrifices to do this. Things you're going to have to prioritise and go, okay, yeah, I'm going to have to let that one go so I can do this. So tonight, I wanted to get on my bike before I did this webinar with you guys. So I normally like to get kind of all the dinner and stuff cleared up before we get the kids in the bath, but I had a choice. I could either have the house all ship shape and perfect and do the webinar and not ride my bike, or I could ride my bike, have kind of stuff not quite kind of ship shape in the home and do the webinar. For me, the two priorities were doing the webinar and riding my bike. It doesn't matter. You guys can't see what state my kitchen's in. It doesn't really matter. When I go to bed tonight, I know that the things that I'm going to be feeling grateful for and that I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for is going to be doing the cycle ride and doing this tonight. So this is why you need to believe that it's worth doing it. It needs to have strong enough value for you that you're going to kind of keep it going. The last thing I want to go through tonight is around the sort of big why, and why it is that you are doing this. So this is kind of really one of the things that I talk to people about and work with people on is thinking about the kind of bigger picture, because with this we're kind of being quite specific. So I want you to have a think about how this connects up for you with kind of your general view on what you're wanting to get out of life. So what desires and needs is it going to meet? So what are the things that are important to you that you live your life trying to achieve? So what is it you kind of, how is it you want this goal to fit in? Because one of the common things I see people kind of tripping up on is they're trying to do a goal that isn't aligned with the rest of what's going on for them and what's important to them, so it kind of just doesn't quite fit in. So really ask yourself kind of that bigger question of how does this goal fit in with your bigger mission in life? What is it that you're kind of wanting to do? Doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be that you have big grand plans and big dreams or anything like that. It's more about kind of going, well, actually, in an ideal world, this is kind of how I want my day-to-day life to be. This is how I want to be leading my life, and therefore this is how this goal fits in with it. So again, I will share an example from the cycling. One of the things that I've been striving to do for years is find a way of exercising and embedding it into my life so that it is just part of a healthy, balanced life, because I want to be feeling the kind of best version of me, and I know that exercise is one of those things that it ticks so many boxes for me on so many levels. But I've struggled to find the right way of doing that fits in with my life, and that doesn't feel like I'm making sacrifices that aren't worth it. So because I live in quite a rural area, the gym doesn't really work. Classes don't really work, because when it's dark outside in the evening like it is right now, do I want to go out to a class or do I want to sit on the sofa? The sofa usually wins for me. So I kind of had to I've been trying to find the right solution for me, because actually one of my aspirations for life is to have exercise as part of just me, that I do it and that I don't have to think about it, I don't have to have that internal battle all the time, but that my children grow up seeing that mummy and daddy both do exercise, but they fit it into life, that I still am doing what I love in terms of work, that I'm still having fun, still going out with friends and still doing all those fun and happy things that we want to be doing, but that so for me, the cycling fitted all of those boxes. It didn't mean that I was having to stray away from kind of what my plan for life was and sort of my aspirations. So yeah, just sort of have a think about that. Have a think about kind of like, actually, what's your general sort of ideal sort of day, week like, and then how does this goal impact on that? How does it fit in with it? And maybe the changes that you're going to need to make, are they in keeping with kind of, if they make a change and a tweak to your sort of routine and your life, actually are they acceptable for you long term? Because if they're not, then we need to go back to that goal and tweak that goal slightly. How can you tweak the goal to mean that it will fit with that bigger picture? So that's lots that I've kind of gone through with you tonight. We've gone through kind of like some of that basic information about kind of motivation and what needs to be in place and how it works, and some of those key things for you to be considering when you're thinking about your goal. We've then talked about kind of your goal, making sure that it's positive, that it's specific, that it's focused in one thing, not trying to do too many things all at once, and that it's achievable for you right now with everything else that you've got going on in your life. We've then kind of had that moment but hopefully is a really nice positive experience for you, of really being in the moment of doing it, of that success, of really thinking about what success feels like for you. And you really need to capture that and have some kind of reminder that you can go back to time and time again to get you through the bumpy days. And then we've looked at, actually, are you in a place where you're ready to do this, where you think that life is going to be better as a result of doing this thing? And then kind of how it connects in with your bigger aspirations for how you're wanting your life to be, and whether the sacrifices and the tweaks that you're going to need to make for this goal are worth it. So lots for you to be thinking about. What I'd love to see is that once you've had time to absorb those and think through them and make scribbly notes in your workbook, for you to come back and share in the group what that goal is, and that we can write it out, and then I'll help you if it needs tweaks along the way, so that by next Tuesday we're all ready, we've got our goal, and then we'll be ready to sort of go on from there. Okay, so before I sign off, has anybody got any questions? No? Okay, this will be available to sort of watch and rewatch, so if you need to go back in at any point you can do that, and any questions, anything that you need to ask me throughout the kind of week, just pop in, ask me a question, and yeah, we'll sort of go from there. I've just seen a comment coming from Jenny, so focusing on the positives from the outcome, not the possible negatives of doing it, is a really great tip. I feel much more focused on getting a better goal. I didn't realise that my goals weren't very good. Great, I'm pleased it's been helpful for you, Jenny. Sorry that I'm kind of sorry that you had that moment of realising your goals weren't very good, but hopefully now we can tweak those goals and we can get them round in the right direction, and then see how you go from there. Great. Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week, and hopefully YouTube will play ball for me. So thank you for persevering with all the technical difficulties, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.